Thursday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Senior Bowl practices continuing in Mobile, Alabama, ahead of Saturday's Senior Bowl game. Some news from the sporting news, though. Myles Garrett, Browns defensive end, named the Defensive Player of the Year again for the second straight year, voted on by the players. They have selected him as the Defensive Player of the Year for the second straight year. The AP one will be announced, I think it's next week is when the AP Player of the Year comes out as well. All right, Andrew Hawkins, former NFL wide receiver, spent some time with the Browns talking about the idea of Shedeur Sanders being drafted by the Browns.
I like it. I like Shedeur Sanders as a talent. I think, he has the arm strength. He has the feel for the game. He's a guy that is used to building programs. You saw what he did at Jackson State. He went to Colorado with, I think they were a one-win team when he in prime time got there, so that bodes well. Also, he's not a stranger to the spotlight, right? You're a top-round pick, and a lot of times when you are a top quarterback drafted, sometimes they're blinded by the spotlight, and it becomes too much pressure. This is a guy that doesn't rattle to pressure. He's the son of the best athlete in the history of the world. So all those things point to a quarterback that feels like he's primed, no pun intended, for the moment. The question becomes, is that a destination that he wants to be at, that Prime wants to be at? Because also, if you're a Browns fan or a part of this organization, you want a quarterback who not only wants to be there, they feel like they're the catalyst to turn this into a winning program. That's what I want from my quarterback.
And I agree with Andrew Hawkins 100% about that. So we'll see. We have yet to hear if Shedeur Sanders wants to be in Cleveland, if Deion Sanders wants him to be in Cleveland. Andrew Berry said he's not concerned about Deion Sanders relative to the drafting of Shedeur Sanders. Remember, the Browns did name Bill Musgrave as their quarterback coach, kind of aligned him from assistant offensive coach to the quarterback coach, and mentioned yesterday that he and Deion played together with 49ers. Take a listen to Deion Sanders about his favorite Super Bowl memory last year at the Super Bowl.
My favorite Super Bowl memory is a guy named Billy Musgrave, who was our scout team quarterback. Great player on his own right, but he played on scout. We had Steve Young, NFL offensive MVP. Billy worked his butt off, prepared us, really got us right. But he never played because of Steve Young. So during the Super Bowl, we're kicking San Diego's butt. And I go to George Seifert and I say, put Billy in. And he looked at me like, I said, no, man, put Billy in. And he put Billy in. And Billy got to throw a pass, and Billy got to play in the Super Bowl. And that's my fondest memory, man. That's really my fondest Super Bowl memory, that Billy got to play, man.
So Musgrave is now the quarterback coach. Pat Shurmur, who was the offensive coordinator at Colorado of Shedeur, has some connections with Kevin Stefanski. So there is familiarity for Deion Sanders with the guys that will be handling his son if he is drafted by the Browns. Does that mean Deion will be on board? Doesn't necessarily. Can't hurt. We won't know until draft day gets closer. But again, the Browns, they didn't name Musgrave, quarterback coach because they're going to draft Shedeur. They named him quarterback coach because he has a lot of experience coaching quarterbacks. The fact that an ancillary thing might be that, it softens the blow or makes it more attractive to Sanders, can't hurt if they determine they want to draft Shedeur Sanders. Today, day 3 of Senior Bowl practices. We're going to take a look at some of the names that have been connected to the Browns in day 3 at the quarterback position. This is Jalen Milroe. This is a pretty good throw. Milroe, a little bit better with the accuracy today. Hits Jack Besh right in stride, and that was a great pass. Now, again, another look at it, right in stride. Good accuracy by Milroe. It was a little bit better today, but red zone drill here, and just gets one of his guys blocked into him. It ends up being a fumble. So better, but still a little bit of a mixed bag for Milroe. Jackson Dart, just a real nice throw over the middle again. Seems like he finds the middle of the field quite often. And take a look at this one. Incomplete pass but a little bit extra on it and put it in a place where only his receiver was going to come up with it. So incomplete pass, but some arm strength there for Jackson Dart. And again, the Senior Bowl actual game will be Saturday. Practices have wrapped up. Kind of an uneven week for Milroe. Dart was a little bit better. We'll see how the game goes as well. All right. Matt Miller, ESPN's draft analyst, on what he has seen and his evaluation of Milroe as it stands right now.
It's not viable. You know, like, he's not accurate enough to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And let's remember, he's 6'1", 220 pounds. This is not Anthony Richardson. This is not even Jalen Hurts. You know, he's not a huge quarterback like a lot of people picture with him. He's incredibly fast, but we saw it over the second half of the season with Alabama. The accuracy just wasn't good enough for him.
Yeah. Where do you think he goes, Matt?
If I had to bet today, I would say third round.
And again, that's Matt Miller, who has studied the tape and has done all the work on Jalen Milroe. And those accuracy concerns, they exist, and they've been even more heightened because of his accuracy at the Senior Bowl. You can tell he is working on his fundamentals. That's the reason he looks a little more mechanical. He's a really good athlete, but he's working on his mechanics, and we'll see. But I can't imagine somebody's going to take a chance on taking him. Certainly early in the first round, even late in the first round. There's just a lot that he has to work through. All right, Cavs went down to Miami, beat the Heat to make it 2 wins in a row, and really the Cavaliers took control of this game pretty early. Donovan Mitchell open for 3. Donovan Mitchell knocks down the 3. They needed him to step up, and he did, 34 points. Ty Jerome to Evan Mobley. He gets the hoop and 1. Mobley had himself a big night in support of Mitchell with Garland out. Mitchell inside to Mobley. Nice move up and under. Mobley, 22 points, 15 rebounds. You mentioned Ty Jerome. Did a nice job filling in as well. Came off the bench. Max Strus gets the dunk on the nice assist from Jerome. Jerome pulls up, knocks down the jumper. He had 20 points off the bench. With Garland, Okoro, Wade, Merrill all out, Donovan Mitchell needed to shoulder more of the scoring burden, and he did. Kenny Atkinson very happy.
We talk about all the other stuff, and that was probably the story of the game, him sensing the moment. I loved how he got downhill today, right? I know he was going to talk about his hezzy pull-up threes and all that, but I felt like he got downhill, got to the rim. He's got that over-the-top floater that works. And then he made some great pass that cut to George, the pass that George cutting from the corner. Just elite, all-star performance by him.
We talked about Evan and getting more towards the rim. Did you think he looked more like Evan tonight?
Better, got to the boards, got to the rim, had a couple of dunks. I just told him, I said, you're about 75 to 80% where you were. So, but I can feel it coming. Sure he'll play well tomorrow night too.
That would be tonight against the Atlanta Hawks, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. 22 points, 15 rebounds for Mobley. So good things there. All right, spring training, only a couple of weeks from catchers and pitchers reporting to Goodyear, Arizona. Here's a look at the contenders, the main contenders to be in that starting rotation for the Guardians. Bybee was really good, 12-8, 3.47 ERA. Lively, 13-10, was a little fatigued near the end of the season, had a 3.81 ERA. Gavin Williams struggled, got it together, up and down, 3-10, 4.86 ERA. Ortiz is intriguing. He's got that they acquired in the deals that eventually they gave up Jimenez, flipped the players they got to get Ortiz and some pitchers from the Pirates. 7-6, 3.32 ERA in 15 starts. Tristan McKenzie, see 3-5, 5.11. Logan Allen, 8-5, 5.73 ERA. Shane Bieber only made 2 starts, had elbow surgery in April. It'll be interesting to see when he will be ready to go. McKenzie also injured and kind of went to AAA to try to get things right. Stephen Vogt, when he met with the media, talked specifically about McKenzie and where he may be relative to coming back.
Yeah, I think Tristan, last winter he was still recovering from injury and, just never quite caught his stride this last season. So for Tristan, he's got a healthy body, healthy arm. He's having a great offseason, and I know it's going to continue to go that way. And I'm expecting Tristan to come in and ready to rock in Goodyear and hopefully earn a spot in our rotation. And we all know how good Tristan McKenzie can be, and the best version of him, it makes us the best version of us. So really excited for Tristan. Tanner, the first thing he told me is he wants to be a number one. He wants to be an ace. He wants to, and I said, all right, let's go show it. And started off the year a little rocky, but then turned it around. And, that performance he put on in Game 5 versus the Yankees on 3 days rest was something special. And he deserved to walk off the mound with a better outcome than he got. But 2 runs over 5 2/3 on 3 days rest against the Yankees in the postseason, that's big-time pitcher stuff. And Tanner solidified himself as one of our best, if not the best pitcher he was last year. And I'm excited to see what Tanner's going to accomplish. And this guy's a competitive bulldog, and I'm kind of scared for my life whenever I go take him out of the game. So he's the ultimate competitor.
Again, Guardians have the pieces there to have a good starting rotation. They built up the bullpen. They need some of the young guys to come through and repeat what they did or take a step forward if they're going to do what they want to do, which is get to the playoffs and make a deep playoff run. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Casey Kinnamon from the Orange and Brown Report. Straight ahead, we're talking Browns. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. Welcome back to Sports for CLE. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave. So I got a quick take on, the Browns getting a quarterback. Say, for instance, the Browns do like Shedeur. He's available in the second round, and they want to pick him. Might be a good idea for the Browns to go ahead and hire Deion Sanders as the quarterback's coach. I mean, he's the guy that got him there. I think it would make Deion comfortable, Shedeur comfortable. I think it would make Kevin Stefanski comfortable because, he doesn't have to worry about the quarterback so much. He can concentrate on the other parts of the team. I think that would be good for the city of Cleveland. Also, having a former all-star cornerback in the locker room. He could also help with Greg and Emerson. I think it would be a win-win for everybody. I'd like to know what you guys think of that. Bye.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome him in. Casey Kinnamon from the Orange and Brown Report, the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast, the Barking Browns podcast. Casey, Deion was, he's talking to Jerry Jones about a head coaching job with the Cowboys. So I don't think I think he's a head coach, and he might consider coming to the NFL as a head coach. I don't think he'd even come as an OC. I don't mind, I don't mind the idea. I think he's a good coach. I don't think he's coming as a quarterback coach or a DB coach.
When I look at Shedeur in particular, I just how he came up through college. Like, he's basically a quarterback who's been homeschooled his whole life. He's never had Deion not be his coach. I honestly feel for him to grow as a player and as a man, he needs to get away from Deion and really become his own man. And that doesn't happen if Deion's here, or you already have the largest shadow cast over you because your father is Deion Sanders. if he stays your coach even through the pros, I just think that becomes a tumultuous thing, and then people would be scared to criticize the quarterback because the coach is on the coaching staff. It just gives you a weird element, and you're already kind of dealing with an extra element with Deion, because whatever team Shedeur goes to, whether that's in Cleveland or New York or Las Vegas, they're going to have to deal with the fact that after every game, Deion's going to be on national shows talking about the game and probably kind of questioning how his son's being used because he doesn't get to coach him for the first time. So there's just an added element of Deion, and I think that if you have him in-house, that makes it too big of a story, I think.
So Stephen A. Smith, on the idea of Shedeur Sanders going to the Browns.
Doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I think the only trepidation that I have is that as gifted as he is with his poise, he doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, and he's not the most mobile quarterback in the world. So the combination of those two things, throwing the football cam off of Lake Erie, real cold, real windy out there, that concerns me. But what I love about the kid most is that, he's clearly been raised by a Hall of Famer. The brother is unflappable. He doesn't get moved too often. He's certainly fearless. We've seen him get slaughtered in the pocket because an offensive line was incapable of protecting him. When I look at the Cleveland Browns, I see a team that's got some big dogs on defense. Offensively, particularly if Nick Chubb is healthy, they could do some things. I know Amari Cooper is no longer there, but I just think that they're a quarterback away from being in the mix and making noise within the AFC North and within the AFC period. And if Shedeur Sanders has that kind of capability and that's what they see from him, I see no issues with it. I'm just worried about Lake Erie, his size, his arm strength, his lack of mobility. He can move, but he's not the most mobile dude in the world. That's what they say about him.
Casey, I agree with Stephen A. Smith, and I hesitate when I say that. That was well thought out.
Yeah, and he said he's a quarterback, so he's polarizing. Right now, everybody wants to pick apart his game, and you're either team Shedeur, which there's a hive out there, or you're like, no, keep him away from you. But if those are genuine concerns, he doesn't have the strongest arm, and he's not as great of an athlete as he thinks he is. He gets himself into trouble a lot, thinking he can out-athlete on a play, and winds up taking atrocious sacks. But he's a rookie, and when you see him play in structure, you see him throw with timing and accuracy, with on schedule. You see where it could work, but then there's those plays where he gets out of pocket and he tries to make too much happen, and it could be a detriment. And especially at the next level, you saw it go and happen in Colorado. You try to do some of that stuff in the NFL, you're going to cost your team in the long run. But you do need a quarterback there. That is the point. So you have to weigh all your options, do your evaluations, and trust your evaluations, whether you think that player could or could not work. He has some strengths that would align with what Kevin Stefanski likes to do, but does he have the arm strength to throw on the lake? Does he have the durability? Because he's tough as can be. He gets up from all these hits, but he's going to come in right around 200 pounds. So at some point, it doesn't matter how tough you are. It's your body. Can your body withstand playing that position at that size? So there's a ton of questions, but it's also, there's like 84 days until the NFL draft. There's so much time to work this out, but people want to either zero in and say he's the guy or he's not the guy. I'd say leave your evaluation open. There's plenty of time for this to play out.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. He's intriguing without question. Mel Kiper Jr., one of those draft analysts, ESPN, talking about Abdul Carter, the Penn State defensive end, and what he sees from him.
For Carter to be like Micah Parsons and resemble Micah Parsons. You see the number 11. You see what Parsons doing with the Dallas Cowboys. That's what people are going to look at. That's the kind of guy that can impact the game when you need it the most in the NFL. And I've already told you when those areas of that game are. That's Micah Parsons. So, yes, whether it's Travis Hunter, Micah Parsons, those are the two best players in the draft. I said it pretty much all year. Those are your two best players. Travis has been number one since August. Carter's been up there. He's at number 2. So, again, are you going to stretch it a little bit for the quarterback as a positional need and value and say, okay, they're 4 and 5 on my board. They're down a little bit on your board. Will teams still go up and get them at 1 or feel the need to? I said all along, the Raiders are the critical team. Yeah. The Raiders are not going to sit and wait, I don't think, for the quarterback to fall in their lap. They did last year and it didn't work, okay? I don't think they will this year. So that's going to be the team to watch. But certainly Abdul Carter deserves to be up there as highly ranked as he is, not just because he has the talent, but because he had the production when he was turned loose off the edge this year.
Yeah, and Casey, it's kind of interesting. Most guys have Sanders and Carter somewhere in the 10 to 15 range. He has them 4 and 5. If you evaluate a quarterback to be 4 or 5, I don't have a problem with you taking him at 2. I really don't.
For me, it depends on what your evaluation is as a pro as opposed to what he is versus the rest of the draft. If I take a quarterback at 2, I got to believe that guy is going to be someone who's going to be in the upper quartile of the league. Like that's my barometer. If you believe he can be a top 8 quarterback in the NFL, no problems at all taking him at number 2. I think, but that's what you're looking for, because if we look at a prospect like Abdul Carter, I do 100% believe he's going to be one of the tip of the spear of his position. I don't feel quite the same about Travis Hunter. There's more variance there because of the dual role that he plays and how you see him as a fit or where you see him doing full-time in the NFL. That's going to be up to each individual team how they view that. But Mason Graham is on that list. That's a guy I believe he'll be a top 5 defensive tackle in the league. There's just I don't see a lot of downside to those picks. The quarterback, there's such a large variance with these particular 2 quarterbacks, with Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. There's a lot of NFL scouts out there that literally have a second-round grade on Shedeur. That just shows you what the variance is. Mm-hmm. But if the team themselves view him as a guy who's going to be in that upper quartile of NFL quarterbacks in year 2, 3, 4 down the line, 100%, then you take that player.
All right, so we've talked about Abdul Carter. These are the top 10 graded defensive prospects by NFL.com since 2019. So Chase Young was the top one, 7.37. Okudah, then you got Brown, Jalen Carter, Isaiah Simmons, Surtain at 7.02. Will Anderson, edge rusher, 7. Then they have Abdul Carter at 7.0, same as Nick Bosa, Josh Hines, Allen. And relative to that rating system, 7.0 to 7.1 Pro Bowl talent. So again, that kind of puts a little bit of context into how highly thought of Abdul Carter is. So again, if he's there at 2 and the Browns don't value, be it if Ward and Sanders are there, Abdul Carter looks pretty nice opposite Myles Garrett, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. That's a nightmare for opposing teams. It's his athletic pedigree. It's his quick twitch, the way he gets around the edge. He shows you the bend, the explosivity. He can win converting speed to power and power to speed. And he's only done it for 1 year full time. Like you start to see like that kid's ceiling is unlimited. So I can wrap my head around staying at 2 and picking up Abdul Carter and feeling I got perfectly good compensation from where I was drafting. But when you look at that list that they showed, it shows you how hard it is to hit on a draft pick. Mm-hmm. All those guys that they had ranked in those first 5 players have never been to a Pro Bowl. I'm not saying they're bad players. Maybe they're in a bad situation or they've had injuries or whatnot, but it's such a crapshoot. I think you had to get down to the 6th player to get to Patrick Surtain before you get to someone that you could say, now that's an all-pro. So there's a ton of variance in evaluations, and it's at the end of the day, like we can know everything we know, see all the film, see all the traits, all the physical testing, but it's still got to click. It's still got to hit. It's got to be the perfect situation. It's such a perfect storm for you to get a top tier talent and have them produce like you imagine them in your mind when you're looking at that on tape. So, but if I look at all the prospects in this draft, I think Abdul Carter is the closest to a sure thing.
Casey Kinnamon from the Orange and Brown Report, the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast, and the Barking Browns podcast. And now I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. We'll head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE. Be right back.
Are you ready? The Ohio Lottery is about to unleash 50 new millionaires on Ohio. Want a chance to become one? Play VIP Millions. With 50 $1 million winning tickets, it's your best chance to win $1 million ever.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from the Orange and Brown Report. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, Dave. Do the Browns have scouts who specialize in positions? Example, a quarterback scout, maybe an edge rusher scout, or a deep snapper scout? Or do they divide it up by geographic locations or maybe conferences? Or is it something more random than that? Always enjoy your show. Thanks for taking my question.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. So they do have geographic scouts during the year that go and look and evaluate players. But as they get closer to the draft process, they kind of break it down into individual positions. Here, and actually, the Browns kind of answer this question with their scouts at the Pro Bowl.
So what we're looking for in practice are guys that follow directions, really looking to see how guys compete against the best of the best in this class.
The way that we set it up is each scout has an assigned position, and we really work through trying to stack that position from the best player to the worst player. We grade everybody here on a 1 through 5 scale, and really we're looking for the guys that stand out amongst their peers. Here, everybody is in a brand new environment and around new people, so we get to see them really in an apples-to-apples comparison, doing the exact same thing that everybody else is asking them.
Specifically for this game, at the quarterback position, we're looking at the physical tools and also the command on the field and in practice. When I say physical tools, I'm talking about arm strength, accuracy, speed, quickness in the pocket, those physical ability attributes.
Scouting is not an exact science. We do use numbers and things like that later in the process. So we have our eyes calibrated on what is poor, what is above average, what is excellent. So we're looking for those things within each player's skill set.
We've all been studying the players for a couple of years now, but once you actually get to sit and see guys and talk with people face to face, you start to form a more educated opinion of them, I'd say.
Casey, it was kind of interesting to hear the scouts kind of explain what they do at the Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl, and that really is, second, third, fourth year looking at some of these players.
That's why this all-star circuit is so important, because you can watch tape and you say if you're watching a lower tiered product like Alabama A&M, and you're searching for players, you can see characteristics you like, but then when you actually get to see them come to one of these all-star circuits like the Senior Bowl and see a left tackle like Carson Vincent go up against SEC competition, Big Ten competition, you get a much more apples-to-apples comparison. And I like how he broke that down, because it's geographically located during the season, or you might have conferences or it's just quadrants. But when you come together with these circuits like this and get to see these guys to assign a scout to each position and rank them that way, you get to interview the players afterwards, and you do get to have a better feel for who that person is on and off the field, how they carry themselves in meeting rooms. It's a much more zeroed in look at each individual player. So I think these all-star circuits are very important for getting to know prospects and really looking and finding exactly what you want in a prospect. These are huge for that.
Yeah, without question. And the practices are more important than the games. And for the Browns, they have coaches that are coaching the team and position groups, which is even better, because then you really have guys that are getting to know this guy is, he does this well, his work habits are this is, you get firsthand knowledge of what you're looking for. Senior Bowl is coming up on Saturday. The East-West Shrine game, the other bowl, is tonight, NFL Network at 8:30. Now, this is from ESPN, the top risers from the Shrine Bowl. We're going to look at a couple of them that are wide receivers. So they go wide receiver, Ricky White III. He's from UNLV, draft range. Third round is what they had. And the ESPN guy doing this, I was a fan of White's before seeing him in person this week, but he'll be moving into my top 100 after the Shrine Bowl events with a fourth-round grade. White is quick, tough, works through routes. Is also a force on special teams, blocking 4 punts this season, returning 1 for a touchdown. He's 6'1", 179, coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons and 19 touchdowns over that time. Now, UNLV, so Mountain West, it kind of goes with what you were talking about. How do how do you do that relative to other guys? Another guy that is in this fast risers thing from Colorado, Jimmy Horn Jr. has the bloodlines. His dad was an NFL player. They view him as a 7th-round pick, undrafted free agent. Didn't take long for Horn's quickness to stand out in practice. Strong hands, consistently plucking the ball out of the air. Dominant during team drills, red zone. Now the downside, 5'8", 171, consistently got separation, showed an ability to defeat man coverage, 37 passes for 441. Had Horn on the 7th-round bubble, positioned himself to be a late rounder who can round out a pro depth chart. Intrigued by both those guys. Horn, when I saw him, yeah, he's quick.
Yeah, it's his size that's going to knock him down boards. And just because, I mean, you're 171 pounds, the kid can absolutely fly. He was a state champion in track in Florida, long jump 23 feet. So if you have to guess about his explosivity, there it is. He can straight up, he's a dynamic mover. He can separate. He's slippery off the line of scrimmage, but he lacks play strength. He's not going to win contested catches. But if you can bring him in as a 7th round or UDFA, that's a pretty good lottery ticket to have, because he could be a game breaker for you. He started his career at South Florida. He really got exposed when he went out to Colorado, and he got to be part of that passing attack. You see what he can do vertically. He brings a different kind of element. Not quite a Travis Benjamin, but something of that mold, and you could see where that player could succeed in the league if he just gets his play strength up. Ricky White's an intriguing one, and the reason I like him is I like anyone who will get in and really bust for special teams, and he's someone who blocks kicks, and when you see that coming out of a guy, you feel much better about taking a mid-round pick. I don't think he'll go in the 3rd. I think it'll be day 3, but even then, if you get a player like that in the 4th or 5th, who's going to be a bottom-of-the-depth player for you in that position to start off, but he can contribute on special teams right away, you can see his path to making an NFL roster.
Here's a guy that really has showed out at the Senior Bowl, Oregon wide receiver Tez Johnson, and one-on-one drills. Some of these you pity the defensive back, because you talk about putting a guy on skates. I mean, this guy has been open and he's turning people around. It'll be interesting to see how quickly he goes. And I mean, that pass was off the mark, but this is a guy that has really done well at the Senior Bowl. And the more I see of this guy, Casey, the more I want to see of him. Tez Johnson has been outstanding.
And he still hasn't done the thing that's going to make him the most famous. He's going to contest for the 40-yard record. He's going to be up there with the Xavier Worthy. But there's a caveat. He weighs 156 pounds. That's going to make some GMs nervous. It just is. I know we had this conversation 2 years ago with Tank Dell at the Senior Bowl, and he came in at 160. But you see the quickness, you see the ability to win early, stretch the field. He does those things. It's about him staying healthy and being able to protect himself at 156 pounds. Now, Tank Dell's had a rough go of it with getting injured since he's entered the league. But when you're that fast, people take chances on you. And like you said, there's some of those breaks, like he's going from 1 yard of separation to 5 yards like that. I mean, it's just his ability to accelerate is special. But it's just going to be that number of 156 that kind of follows him around and will give people pause. Now, if he goes to Indianapolis and he runs a 4.19, if he can actually flirt with that number, then all of a sudden he'll start to rocket up boards.
Yeah, Tank Dell, when he's been on the field, has been really productive. It's been staying on the field for an entire season. So it'll be interesting to see. Casey Kinnamon and I are going to step aside, take one more timeout. Other side of the break, we'll talk a little bit about number 2, a little bit more about Sanders or Ward. Sports4CLE, I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from the Orange and Brown Report, the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast, and the Barking Browns podcast. Matt Miller, NFL draft analyst for ESPN, on the Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders debate.
You know, both guys got some things they need to clean up for sure. But I think if you ask me to pick one for my imaginary team, I would say Cam Ward. For Cleveland, I think Shedeur might be a little better rookie fit just because of how well he operates from the pocket, how accurate he is. I've said this over the course of the pre-draft process now. I think Shedeur is going to be better year one because he's accurate. He reads the field well. You know, he's the son of a football coach. Like his dad's Dion, but he's the son of a football coach. And I think that processing ability is going to help him out early.
So Casey, here's my question for you. Say the Titans, some people are thinking they may go Abdul Carter 1. If they go Abdul Carter 1 and you're Andrew Berry and you're sitting there and you have the choice between Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, or Hunter, what are you doing?
The first thing I'm doing is I'm taking a phone call from Las Vegas, kicking some tires, seeing what they're willing to do to move up from 6 to 2. And depending on what they say, I'm either moving or I'm sticking and picking. If I'm sticking and picking and I look at I don't have Abdul Carter available to me, I would even consider Mason Graham at this spot. But if I have to pick a quarterback, if you're saying one way or the other, I'm picking a quarterback, I'm taking Cam Ward because of the ceiling. I believe the ceiling is there that he could eventually be a top 8 quarterback. He walks into the league with a top 8 arm. Now, there's a lot of things between the ears, footwork-wise, things you need to work out. And I don't feel good about starting him day one, that's for sure. But we know how this is. If you draft a quarterback number 2 overall, you can say it as many times as you want. We're going to set him this year. We're going to let him learn. How far does he get? Week 5, week 6? It eventually always comes to fruition where that guy's got to come in and play. But if you're saying I have to stick and pick and I have to pick a quarterback and both are available, I'm taking Cam Ward.
I'm going to say you don't have to pick a quarterback. And, you know, the upside of Ward intrigues me. The floor of Ward scares the bejeebies out. Yeah, just because of what we've gone through at quarterback here. But yeah, I mean, you know, no risk, no reward, I guess. This from NFL.com. 5 quarterbacks who need new homes in 2025. They go Kirk Cousins. Atlanta can save $27.5 million against cap by trading Cousins post-June 1 move. Seems their only path to recouping some of their investment in terms of cap space. They also kind of delineate that he had success when Kevin Stefanski was offense coordinator. They also say Dorian Thompson-Robinson. We learned from DTR's 2024 experience he needs much more time in order to handle the speed of the game. Perhaps Cleveland isn't the best place for him to do that. I don't argue with either of those. We yesterday we had a beat reporter on from Atlanta who said 2 things. He said he didn't think that Cousins was necessarily hurt or completely healthy. He kind of fatigued. And they didn't do anything relative to scheme to help him out and play to his strengths. They kind of they put him in the pistol and said, here, go to work. So those 2 things intrigue me about Cousins. He might be able to come in and give this team above average quarterback play, which I think makes them a playoff contender. And I can't believe I just said that about a 3-14 team, but it's the way I feel.
Yeah, and it raises the floor, takes the variance out of it, and you get a steady hand to kind of work with these guys, and you kind of hit the ground running. I see the reason why you would make that move, and I don't think you have to trade for him. I think they can say that they're going to try to get someone to trade for him to kind of help them out. But at the end of the day, they're not going to, if no one bites on the trade, because they know they'll basically have to release him. I think he ends up becoming his own free agent. And I got to applaud Kirk Cousins for the way he's navigated his career. Nobody's been paid like he's been paid at every stop, you know, and he maximizes the most out of his time. This will be his one chance to go kind of pick a team, and we'll find out real quick if him and Stefanski's working relationship was something that he wants to revisit. But if he did, it's an easy call. Now, that doesn't prevent you from drafting a quarterback and bringing another reclamation project in, because this is going to be a full-throated effort. What Kirk Cousins did last year, even scheme aside and health aside, it wasn't so much that gives you confidence to say he's 100% the answer and we just roll with him. You still got to back everything up, kind of surround him with players, but he's a guy that you don't have to worry about starting week 1. He'll be up to speed. He'll get the game plan. He'll understand the keys. He'll be able to read and make all the calls, all the checks, and it'll kind of take a little bit off Stefanski's plate and give him time to develop someone underneath. And I think that was, whether they knew it or not at the time, when they signed Kirk last year, the Falcons, and when they drafted Penix, that's the way they looked at it as well. We don't have to worry about getting Penix ready. Even if he looks good in camp, you can still bring him along slow. Kirk will be good to go week 1, and you can bring him along. And how's Kirk coming off an Achilles? Now he's a year removed from that Achilles. We'll see how much of it is the fatigue, how much of it is just age. But one thing, they will lean into his skill set if he comes to Cleveland. He won't have to worry about what he did in Atlanta. Like, Stefanski will make sure that he has everything at his disposal that he can run and operate and be 100% function.
Other things that Josh Kendall, who was the beat reporter for the Atlantic for the Falcons, said. Great teammate, which you hear everywhere. And if you want to find out more about that, go watch the quarterback series on Netflix. If you want to know about Kirk Cousins, he comes off as incredibly likable. And the other thing he said is they were at the midway point, he was a top 10 quarterback, and then kind of fell off the face of the earth with and nobody could answer why. Raheem Morris couldn't answer why, Cousins couldn't answer why.
Yeah, and it's not from a lack of weapons either. Like, you do look around, and they had him sufficiently stocked with Drake London.
Yep.
Mooney even played well. Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts. There's a good complement of weapons, and he did throw a significant amount of interceptions. So that's something to give you pause. But I just think the familiarity with what Kevin Stefanski likes to do, what Kirk does when he's in his bag, I think that you can bring those two things together, and you can, whatever's in the tank, you can get the best of it out of him if you bring him here.
Casey Kinnamon, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Casey.
Anytime, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Casey Kinnamon, make sure you read him in the Orange and Brown Report. He is also the co-host of the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast and the Barking Browns podcast. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Damon Wolfe from Dawgs by Nature, straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Are you ready? The Ohio Lottery is about to unleash 50 new millionaires on Ohio. Want a chance to become one? Play VIP Millions. With 50 $1 million winning tickets, it's your best chance to win $1 million ever.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's welcome in Damon Wolfe from Dawgs by Nature. Damon, I know you wrote an article. Take us through this one. Could the Browns land their next quarterback before the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I kind of just wrote that. I know everybody's really anticipating free agency in the draft to really determine what the Browns are going to do. And I just wanted to just kind of highlight that it is possible that the Browns could agree to a trade similar to what happened a few years back when the Rams and the Lions agreed to the trade for Matthew Stafford and for Jared Goff and 2 first-round picks. The trade was actually agreed to on, I believe, January 30th of that year, and even though it wasn't made official by the league until March 18th when the new league year started.
Yeah, so again, that's those are the things that can happen, and it'll be interesting to see. You know, we just got done talking about Kirk Cousins. If nobody trades for him, they're going to release him. Nobody there expects that he's going to be on the roster. The question is, can they get a 6th or 7th round draft pick for him? Brown's probably willing to play that waiting game and see, because it's, there are several tens of millions of dollars at stake relative to what they would have to pay him.
Yeah, I think the Browns have some options there when it comes to Cousins, and I think that they will probably play the waiting game to see what really happens. Now, I could see a scenario where, if Kevin just believes that, it's a great opportunity to go ahead and get a quarterback that I'm familiar with, that I can trust, that if somehow the Falcons were to eat some of the money on the contract, knowing that they're going to release him anyway, similar to what the Browns had to do when they traded away Baker a few years back to Carolina. I could see maybe a scenario like that playing out. But ultimately, I think you're right. I think the Browns will kind of, sit back and watch what happens.
All right. So relative to the Senior Bowl, you wrote an article, Andrew Berry, and talking about some of the quarterbacks that are going to be seen in the draft process. So there's Shedeur Sanders, and you had some quotes from him about each. So Shedeur, really impressive young man, poised, calm, smart, Hall of Fame dad. Going to get to know him and even more over the course of the spring. Really impressive. So it's kind of interesting. We've talked a lot on this show about Sanders, and Deion said, way back, wouldn't let a young quarterback go there. We'll see. Those things change. Sanders is an intriguing guy, without question.
Yeah, he is a talented quarterback. He can play from the pocket and has above average accuracy. So, and I think, so talking in reference to either him or Cam Ward, I think that Sanders would be a better fit for, the Kevin Stefanski offense. But, I don't know about it. Pick number 2, that's a little high for me. There are some other concerns, essentially towards his ceiling and what he can ultimately be. I just don't know that he's worth the number 2 overall pick. But I do think that, if you're looking for somebody to come in and play right away, I think that Sanders could be, and play well in your system. I think he could be a good fit for the Browns.
Yeah, without question. And, the knock on him was there's not really an elite skill set, not a great athlete, not a really strong. I mean, they're above average, but they're not elite. He does process things elite at relative to football. So again, we'll see. Jalen Milroe is another one, and this one's intriguing. A ton of familiarity. That's Tommy Rees, who was his OC with Alabama. He's now the Browns' offensive coordinator. The thing, we have seen Jalen Milroe struggle during the first couple of days of practices at the Senior Bowl. It looks like he's working on his mechanics, and it's not quite there yet, and he's struggling. And today he made better throws, but you can see it's a work in progress relative to accuracy and the mechanics.
Yeah, he's going to be a project for sure. And, I think the hand size issue that came up is also another thing to be concerned about playing in Cleveland. So ultimately, I mean, the guy he's going to test off the charts at the combine. He's going to blow a lot of people away. I still think he goes pretty high, but like you said, I mean, he's definitely going to be a project and somebody that you're going to need to give some time to and, work through some of those mechanical issues and accuracy issues. And, as far as struggling down at the Senior Bowl, I know we've all kind of seen the clips over the past couple of days, and, hasn't been the greatest for social media, but, it is kind of a different environment, tough environment for what those guys were used to, especially coming in the first day of practice. So, not having any rapport with any of the receivers and that kind of stuff, and the coaches asking them to do things from the perspective of evaluating them on the field down there. I think that most of the, like Andrew Berry already has a great opinion of, what kind of talent Milroe is and what he needs to work on. So I think from there, they're just really trying to soak up, other aspects like how they talk to guys, how they interact. Of course, the interview is a big part of the process, but all of those kind of things that are immeasurable, and just to get a chance to be around them.
Yeah, well, and the thing I would say, the Browns are going to know more about Jalen Milroe than anybody because of Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees coached him for an entire season. So,
for sure.
The other one, Jackson Dart. And Jackson Dart, the more I see of him, the more I'm intrigued by him. High-level processor, really good anticipation, accurate, pounds the middle of the field. And, yeah, you see that even when you watch him play. Probably has some understated mobility. Dart is interesting. That the concern that I have with him is that was a very gimmicky offense, and doesn't mean it was a bad offense. He just didn't throw the ball downfield as much as you would like at Mississippi, and guys were wide open when you watch Mississippi play.
Yeah, that Kiffin offense down there is pretty unique. And really allows for a lot of, college production. So, but I was really struck by Barry's comments about Dart. I'm early in the watching process of him, but I've got a couple games in, but he called him an elite processor. Tommy Rees said that was the number one thing he's looking for in a quarterback for his system. And then also, it really struck out to me, Barry pointing out his knack for being able to throw the ball over the middle of the field, because that's something that, we certainly want to be able to do with tight ends and throwing the ball up the seam and those kinds of things, and that Stefanski style offense. So those are two things that really caught my attention with that quote.
Yeah, and you saw that. I have seen that in clips from the Senior Bowl practices. He throws the ball over the midfield. I saw that. I watched their bowl game, and I watched them one of their SEC games, and that was my reaction was he throws laterally and he throws over the middle, and that was like everything. But I mean, he was pretty accurate. It was just interesting. I know you did
he's an interesting prospect for sure.
I know you did a quarterback room preference poll. So let's take a look at that. You had Malik Willis, Jacoby Brissett, Jalen Milroe. That one has almost 40% of the vote. Kirk Cousins, Zach Wilson, Jackson Dart, 34. Fields, Mac Jones, and Ewers, a little over 26%. Of those, I like the Cousins, Zach Wilson, Dart one. If I could Chinese menu it, I might do Cousins, Brissett, and Dart. But we'll see which one. I know you like Willis, right?
Yeah, I do like Willis. I think he would be a really good swing for the Browns to take. I could live in either of those three scenarios as an option for the quarterback room. I just wanted to put something out there that when you think about it, you kind of have to think about the different scenarios of probably a veteran, probably somebody with upside, and probably a draft pick. So those are kind of three worlds that I could really envision and seeing them take. But ultimately we'll see, and I could definitely go with either of those.
Damon, Wolfe from Dawgs by Nature and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We will continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Stay with us. Full Court Action is a half hour devoted exclusively to men's and women's basketball from across the Mid-American Conference. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave Bacon. Join me at 6:30 Tuesday nights, and we'll meet the coaches and players from the Mid-American Conference who are making an impact in basketball. Full Court Action will spotlight the top plays and performances from all across the Mid-American Conference with some historical action as well. Catch Full Court Action Tuesday nights at 6:30 on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. We continue talking Browns with Damon Wolfe from Dawgs by Nature. This one from the Bleacher Report. Realistic grades for each team's 2024 season. For the Browns, they give them an F. Cleveland scored the fewest points, racked up the 5th fewest yards, which put a lot of pressure on the defense to keep the score margins close. Jim Schwartz's unit couldn't replicate its stout performance from previous campaigns. Looking back at the Browns' 2024 season, you would be hard-pressed to find anything that went particularly well. They went from a 2023 playoff team to nearly unwatchable, 3-14. Damon, Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward would be the only things I could find that were positives for a season.
Yeah, it's really hard to disagree with that assessment. It was definitely hard to watch on Sundays most of the time, and with the exception of a few offensive outbursts from Jameis Winston. But yeah, it was a tough season overall. Nothing went right. You know, they decided to run things back, bringing back the veterans from the previous season. And it seemed like there was just regression across the roster. And, you know, I mean, sometimes that happens with teams, but for the Browns, it seemed like, you know, it just kind of happened with, you know, most of the players, most of the veterans. And you know, it just wasn't any good. The offense just never really found an identity, couldn't run the ball. And yeah, it was really bad to watch.
Yeah, I guess I should throw Jerry Jeudy in there since he did have a breakout season as well. So Jeudy, Myles Garrett, and Denzel Ward.
Yeah.
James Palmer, this from Bleacher Report, talking about Shedeur Sanders.
They obviously had a conversation with Shedeur Sanders. They enjoyed it, to my understanding. They're going to keep talking and evaluating their quarterback spot. Remember, I wanted to touch on the Browns because they're going back to the way Kevin Stefanski runs his offense. And I think that's worth noting because when we saw them blend everything together last year with Ken Dorsey and company and trying to accommodate Deshaun Watson, it just didn't work. What we have seen Kevin Stefanski be successful with a variety of quarterbacks running his system. Bridge quarterbacks. And so if they don't like one of these quarterbacks and they are completely in play at drafting one of them, they also do not believe that Deion Sanders would come in and Prime would tell them that they can't draft Shedeur at number 2 if they'd like. I also just throwing it out there, my personal opinion, Shedeur is much more the point guard compared to Cam Ward and the physical traits that he possesses with the athletic ability and the monster arm and all these things. I can see a point guard really succeeding in the way Kevin Stefanski draws things up and the way that he plays an offensive system. And then
And I think that's fair. I think that's absolutely a fair assessment. Look at the guys that Kevin Stefanski has won with here. It's the only guy that has really struggled in his offense is Deshaun Watson. That concerns me a little bit about Cam Ward.
Yeah, I think that you know, Shedeur Sanders is probably the safest bet in the draft if you're going to really, you know, take a quarterback and take one early. So, you know, I completely agree with the assessment there. When first evaluating the quarterback situation in the upcoming draft, I originally felt that maybe Sanders might be somebody they stay away from just because of the possible situation with, you know, Deion maybe objecting to him going to Cleveland or anything like that. I just thought the Browns would want to stay away from that. You know, kind of the they don't want to take any more PR heat than what they already have over the past few years with the Deshaun Watson situation. But it seems like some of that's cooling down, and you know, Barry seems confident that it wouldn't be an issue for the Sanders family. So, and I would have to think at this point he would know, and at least they've had a conversation about that. So, you know, the idea of drafting Shedeur Sanders becomes more and more realistic by the day, in my opinion. And I do believe that Sanders, you know, he would be a safe option for you.
It'll be interesting to see. I kind of tend to think if Deion's going to object to a place, I think it's going to be closer to between the combine and the draft, just because I don't think you want to get into that where teams are – that becomes an immediate red flag for everybody, and I think he'll wait on that. Tony Grossi, Tony Rizzo, talking about the possibility of the Browns not taking a quarterback in the first two rounds of the draft.
Do you see a scenario where Barry does not take a quarterback at 2 or 33 or in a trade down, where he addresses it in later rounds 3 through 7?
Yeah, anything is possible at this point. And Riz, that's a new option that we haven't discussed. If you don't earmark your first pick for a quarterback, I would still trade down and take Mason Graham.
Okay.
At 33, you take the best player, who you like at 33.
Okay.
And then if you earmark the top of that third round for your quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay, who's the guy there? The guy that nobody is talking about.
Right.
Will Howard.
Again, I don't think there's a bad answer. One of these guys that isn't Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward is going to end up being, top 15 type quarterback. I have no idea which one.
Yeah, it's at this point, I mean, and the fact of the matter is, NFL GMs don't know.
Yeah.
If they did, they would be a lot better at drafting them, right? So, I mean, that's what kind of makes this whole process fun. The answer to that question of whether or not they take one in the first 2 rounds, I mean, if they're going to draft, if it's one of those 3, Milroe, I would even put Dart in that conversation, actually, to make it 4. It would be one of those 4 guys. Everybody else, I think you would wait until the 3rd round or later. But, unless they draft or unless they address the position in free agency or a trade in some major way that, we don't see, and those things always pop up from year to year as well. Teams decide they want to go in a different direction. So unless there's some kind of shocking move like that, I'd say they probably have to draft one pretty quick in the draft.
Yeah, and they'll know that. You'll know that in free agency before the draft, and they kind of have a conditional thing worked out. So they'll see, and a lot of it will depend on how much they like Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and they're still in the beginning process. There, we won't know that for a little bit still. Damon, Wolfe, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Damon.
No problem. Thanks, Dave.
Damon Wolfe, make sure you check them out. Dawgs by Nature, always really good stuff. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.